This is Get Real with Bob and Stacey, the show that helps you learn about the mortgage and real estate markets. Get the inside scoop from their expert list of guests and have some fun along the way. Now, here's Bob Gallagher and Stacey Alcorn.
Welcome back. You're listening to Get Real with Bob and Stacey. You're joining us for our Leaders and Legends segment. And our guest today is author Jim Widdon. He wrote The Old School Advantage, Timeless Tools for Every Generation. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Well, thank you. It's great to be with you, Bob. Stacey?
So let me give everybody a little background on Jim. He spent his career in the financial services industry, where as an accomplished business owner, wealth advisor, and national thought leader, he authored 2 books, Wealth Without Worry and The Investing Revolutionaries. In working with thousands of couples over the years, Widdon emphasized how to successfully invest financial capital. But his vast experience in this arena only highlighted the greater worry that kept his clients up at night, their children and their grandchildren. Impassioned with a new mission, Widdon sold his highly successful investment firm in 2013 and began writing The Old School Advantage, Timeless Tools for Every Generation. As a father of 4 millennials, he felt compelled to invest in something of even greater value, social capital, the how-to of life. He now teaches that by putting stock into developing communication skills, leadership qualities, and most of all, wisdom. Parents can leave a legacy for their kids and grandkids that allows them to not only properly manage a financial inheritance, but also to lead a balanced life of significance. That sounds amazing. So what is the old school advantage?
Well, thank you. I could not have done that better myself. But we've made old school a noun, and that may sound kind of funny, but I think, when somebody says, hey, you're old school, generally that's seen as positive, and interestingly, across all generations. But what we wanted to do is say, how can we institutionalize the concept of the old school so that this next generation, and I had my own kids in mind, they're ages 17 to 24, I've got 4 of them, how can we implant those tried and true principles through the ages into their little brains around the technology that so dominates their lives, so that they can just be successful? And as you mentioned, I want them to be significant. And so that was really the origin of the old school. It was about my kids and my grandkids when they come someday. How can I help them? How can I pass on a legacy? Really is what it was about.
Wow. So what is the answer? How do you pass on a legacy to them?
Well, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, because it seems like they have their heads buried in technology. I have a 6-year-old, and she's on an iPad and an iPhone a big chunk of the day. How do you get through to them?
It's funny. I actually retweeted an article I read the other day that showed that millennials are reading hardback books. And I did a little research into that. I asked my own publisher, and sure enough, when ebooks came out, the hardback book sales dove until it got to 50. Why did it stop there? And my publisher told me that millennials are getting tired of the distractions when they're trying to read. And so believe it or not, they are trending back towards old school hardback books. And so I think it's just a classic reaction back the other way. In other words, you inundate too much, and even this generation is going to say, okay, hold up a second, this is too much.
Wow.
Which I found fascinating, because I was concerned, like you, Stacey, that it wasn't ever going to stop.
Yes.
But there is a little bit of hope. So, but you base it on values, on wisdom, as you mentioned, and you just try to motivate them, like our parents motivated us, to do good things and to do right, and to be authentic and consistent and responsible and accountable and determined. These are words that are so powerful. If we'll just pour those words into them and let them hear them often, I'm hoping that it'll make a difference. So it is a lot of work. There's no question, and probably our biggest enemy is, in fact, technology.
What inspired you to change the direction of your career from that of a successful finance professional to a founder and author of this old school philosophy?
I had been in the financial services business now for over 30 years. And I wanted something new. It wasn't a midlife crisis, but I was in my early 50s, and I said, what else can I do? And I wanted to take some risk off the table, frankly, because, owning your own business, financial services or otherwise, there's always risks involved, getting hit by a bus, et cetera. So I wanted to take the risk off the table, and simultaneously I had a passion for making sure my kids were prepared for whatever comes, whether it's bad economies or issues globally, or, if you pay too much attention to the news, you get really scared quickly. But I think my kids' generation, and certainly their children's generation, is going to have to be more equipped than mine was. And so I said, how can I do that? I saw the opportunity to merge my firm with another one. They graciously allowed me to start writing this book, and that's kind of how we got off the ground.
So when I think of old school philosophy, just coming from a sales background, I think of, for example, like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, like just very basic concepts, but truly old school, like listen to people and, instead of talking all the time, and things like that. So is it like a deep dive like that, or is it broader issues that you're teaching? I know you just took a 12-day trip through China teaching the old school principles. Like, what are some of the actual principles that you're teaching?
Well, we do take a deep dive, and so half of the program deals with intercommunication skills, interpersonal communication skills. And again, this, you may say, well, this should come natural to kids, but I'm telling you, this generation, it is not coming naturally. So things like being able to remember a short list of items by using the ancient technique of a memory palace. We teach that in Chapter 1, for example. Because if you can't remember it, it's as though you never learned it. It really doesn't help you in any situation. And then we have an area that we call words that wow. 30 words to wow somebody. It's really 30 words and phrases. And we start there by scrubbing their vocabulary. Awesome and so and like, and those things that are overused. I mean, it's okay to use those occasionally, but they're certainly overused in this generation. Then we get into influence and persuasion techniques, how to use phrases. If you mentioned you were in sales, these would probably come natural to you and you would recognize them very quickly. But this generation, again, needs those. Probably my favorite part of the book is in Chapter 4, where we talk about reasoning and asking great questions, kind of the Socratic methods made fun, if you will, of argumentation. And I mean that in a classical sense. I don't mean that in a bickering or, an argumentative, but rather just making a case for what you believe and learning from others. I think we're in a society that is not willing to learn from others, and it's just a matter of knowing how to do that without getting emotional. And then becoming a master storyteller. That is the most efficient way to communicate anything. We remember stories from our grandparents and our parents for decades, whereas we forget facts and figures fairly quickly. So that's kind of the first half. Deep dive into those communication skills. Then we get into leadership techniques, things that might be as simple as time management, quantitative decision-making. That sounds like a big, complicated thing, but it's really just trying to be objective about choosing the university you want to go to, or choosing that that key first entry-level job. So we have a chapter devoted to interviewing skills, picking the right mentor, becoming a lifelong learning, knowing what your wisdom factor is. In other words, how wise are you at your age? So we get into those kinds of things. So to use your term, it's a fairly deep dive into some basics, if that makes sense.
Yes.
We should make this required reading for all millennials that we hire.
Hey, I'm telling you, yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. In fact, we use it for corporate training for that very purpose, because it will definitely give you an advantage if you have a staff that understands these principles, because they stand out today, Bob. Most kids aren't going to use these power words that we talk about in Chapter 2. And they're so simple, and it's fun to do. I mean, we make it fun.
Give us a couple power words. I use awesome too much because I'm from Boston.
That's all I use is awesome.
Right.
So we need a couple power words.
All right, well, instead of awesome, I'm going to give you 2 words to use instead of awesome.
Yes.
And by the way, it's okay to use awesome. Okay, nothing wrong with that word. It's a great word. But try extraordinary or exceptional.
Okay.
Look for opportunities to use those words. So if a 23-year-old comes in and you're interviewing them and they say, I just find that you have really an exceptional business here and I'd like to join it.
Yes.
as opposed to, I think you've got an awesome business.
Yes.
See, you don't take the word awesome serious.
Yes.
But that word exceptional, or if they use the word extraordinary, that would get your attention, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
That's
amazing.
extraordinary.
Yes. That's exceptional advice.
But these are so simple, but they work. So there's an example. Let me give you a few others of my favorites, if you don't mind.
Yes.
I love first things first. So if a kid says, well, first things first, and then they continue to tell you what they were going to tell you, they're saying I'm organized.
Yes.
I take my time. I'm a sequential thinker. So in other words, there's so many characteristics or positive traits by just using the right words. And you know what else is fun about this is when we teach kids, particularly millennials, to use these words, they become these words. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Amazing.
In other words,
That's great.
words are so powerful in life. I always say they're the most powerful thing in life are words. Winston Churchill said words are the only things that last forever, and he wrote 10 million of them, so he really believed that, by the way. But the words pack within them meanings that tell you about the person using them. And then the beautiful part is the person becomes those great words when they use them. We have a little pledge that we pass out to kids. It's real simple. It says, I am authentic and consistent in my actions. I am responsible, accountable, and reliable. I am determined, and I make no excuses. I am wise beyond my years. I am old school. Now, if you have a kid coming in for a job interview,
He'd be hired.
And you get that out of them,
Yeah, hired. 2
you're not going to
seconds.
ask about if they had any C's in English or history in college, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway,
Wow.
Now, what if you use that as sort of like a pledge when you're hiring somebody, or does it not work that way?
I think it would. I mean, we're not trying to brainwash anybody, so I don't want to go too far because some pledges in history have been kind of, not good. But
Commitment. We'll call it a commitment then.
yeah, it's funny. You know what? I just read off of one of our shirt tags. We sell every color of shirt under the sun that just has our company logo on the front of it because it says the old school. And so kids love wearing those shirts because they're kind of saying, hey, I'm old school, check it out, kind of thing. And that's actually just on the tag that that the manufacturer puts on the shirt. So, we're just saying, wear this shirt, live up to this, and your problems are going to be much fewer. And you're going to do well, kind of thing.
I like that.
So I think we already covered some of this, even with simple things like the words that they use. But do you have any specific advice for how the old school can help college-bound seniors, graduates, business professionals, etc.?
Well, the book contains, for example, for college-bound seniors, there are testing skills, test-taking techniques and secrets. There are writing skills, public speaking. These are all skills they're going to need to be successful in college. Chapter 6 is all about interviewing. So if they're interviewing for organizations in college, which they should be, and most of them are, and then certainly when they become a junior or senior, they're going to be interviewing for internships and jobs out of college. For young professionals, I think it gives them an edge because you're simply going in and you're sounding and looking. There's even there's a section on how to dress for that first interview,
Right.
For both men and women. It's going in there and you're being different from the beginning.
Right.
You're following up differently. You're sending a handwritten card, which they just don't see much anymore. So every little touch point, these students and these professionals are being seen as different in a very positive way. And that's where it comes back to why we call it an advantage.
Right. And I think as a business owner, I know that when I am hiring or going through candidates, basically what I'm looking for is somebody that just stands out. Like it's so rare that you put I just went through this process, like putting a job out there on a bunch of different job boards. You get 300 resumes. So quickly you go through the resumes and just throw out the ones that immediately you see like spelling errors or they don't attach the resume when you specifically ask for a resume. Then you bring them in.
Right.
And specifically what I look for is somebody that just stands out a tiny bit because you see the same thing over and over. So I can see that little things, it's all the little tiny pieces that occasionally you meet someone, you're like, oh my God, they took my breath away because they
Yeah.
sent a follow-up thank you note. Little things like that make such a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote the book so that both sides can benefit. And what I mean by that, if you're a graduating college senior looking for that first job, you can look at that interview chapter and say, these are the things I need to do to get that first job. And if you're the interviewer, you can look at that chapter and say, these are the things I'm looking for in my candidate. And so it really kind of comes from both sides of that. And I think it'll make you a better interviewer, in my opinion. Of course, I wrote the book. But anyway, take a look at that and see what you think. I would be interested in your feedback and your listeners as well.
Absolutely. I'm going to check it out. And I just went through this in the last round of interviews I did. I got a resume back that was so bad. And I actually rewrote it for her and sent it. I said, you are never going to get a job as long as you keep sending that resume. Because I was so horrified that I'm like, how can this girl?
It was that bad?
It was so bad. And I'm like, it's going to take me 15 minutes just to fix this and send it back. Anyways, Jim, where is the best place for people to find you and your book?
Well, it's in all the bookstores, obviously Amazon and those major carriers online. You can go to our website, theoldschooladvantage.com.
Okay.
If you'd like to also check out our organization, you can go to theoldschooladvantage.cool, C-O-O-L, and that is an actual address on the internet. And we did that because our idea is we want to make the old school cool. So if you can remember that, great. If you can't, you can go to the book site that I mentioned, theoldschooladvantage.com. And by the way, our shirts are available on the .cool site. So every color shirt you can imagine is there.
Wow.
And they're soft. They'll be your favorite T-shirt, I can promise you.
All right. Well, this has been an exceptional interview. So thank you for your amazing advice today. Super stuff. I'm going to check out the book.
Thank you, Jim. We're going to take a quick.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Get Real after this.